Father's Day edition podcast. I'm here. My name is Antoine Gist. I'm the Assistant State Director of BlexitPA. And to my left,
Hi, I'm Ralph, and I'm the City Director. Great to be here for our first podcast of BlexitPA.
Great. So, I'm happy to be here with the first edition, with my very good friend, Ralph Jones. He's been a very dear friend of mine. Actually, I want to call him my battle buddy. We served in the military at 445. Quartermaster Battalion. So we have a long-term friendship, about 20 plus years. Yeah, 20 years. So we served in battle, and we are serving in the streets, so to speak, in the streets of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. What do you think of your experience with Blexit so far, Rob?
It's an experience that is a more of a calling than anything else, because it seemed when it first came out, I wasn't really all that into it. And then when Antoine told me about it, I'm like, oh, okay, let's try it out. And I always wanted to help my community since I was a kid. I always wanted to be a police officer, and then I joined the military instead. And ever since then, I've been in Philadelphia for probably 20 years. And it's getting to me to help in the community. What Blexit is doing is very, very good. And we need to wake everyone up to what's going on, and especially now, CRT and the whole transgender and pride month and all that. We really need to wake up everybody and actually have a good change of slavery out of the mindset of not being a victim, not being a person who wants a handout from the government. And it's actually biblical that we should do for ourselves, not have someone do for us. So I'm glad to be part of Blexit, and it's a great family. And we're also going to have a QR code in the podcast, so whoever wants to join, we'd love to have you aboard with us.
Now, I've been a part of Blexit for about going on 2 years this summer. And I'll have to say, you've been an awesome addition, Ralph. I'm not speaking just because you're my friend, but you have been very instrumental, even with this podcast that we're breaking ground with. So do you think that I feel like you embody Blexit. You're a hardworking dad. You're a patriot. You are my friend, and you are the person who always is ready to jump in the battle. And I say a lot of military terms, but you are what you call a hood soldier. A guy who is willing to lay down his life for his country and for his family. And I've seen that personally. I know all the things that we're doing with Blexit this year, we've been in some areas where a lot of people just wouldn't go to, and like even the city has neglected. We've had an outreach program with Pastor Scott, and we go into Kensington, and we're out there servicing the people, giving them hope bags. Now, there is an administration that wanted to give out crack bags, right? Crack kits. So we were out there, and we are going to continue to go out into the community and service those people who are struggling with addiction and depression. Now, we go out there, and sometimes people don't have a vehicle to service their community. But what Blexit does, it gives you the comfort of being with like-minded individuals to go out and in protection. Let's be completely known that we are out there together. Blexit is a family. And when we go out to service the community, we're not alone. we gravitate to so many different individuals. In the past 2 years, I've built a beautiful network of people that range from all different ages, different backgrounds, and I'm very happy to be a part of Blexit because it allows me to connect with so many people. And right now in this world where we're so cut off by social media and different ideals, it's a pleasure to come together with like-minded people. So, what do you think some of the things that you picked up from being at Blexit?
A few things that hits home for me is that coming home the first time after Iraq, I was homeless, and it's hard to pick up the pieces and to know that the place was around that family that I was able to go to them and put me and my family on the right path to have a home or being in a community that will help you. So that's a great thing. Also, we are an organization that we want each and every person to have a life that is successful. Again, it's biblical that we're here because we need to be successful in what we're doing. If we're successful, that gives praise to God.
Right there, Ralph. I have to put a little pin right there in what you're saying, because Blexit is, and this is just me speaking, this is not the views of Blexit, but Blexit is everything that Black Lives Matter should have been, right? It's empowering people, and what you're saying to me is a lot of empowerment. I know I wake up on the weekends and I'm motivated to go out into my community. Instead of, I could be, staying in, watching TV, but it motivates me, and I bring out my family, and we come out on different occasions, all the kids together, and the best thing that you can do for your community is give back and to serve. And that's one of the biblical principles that, Blexit pushes. And I'm very happy that we can, come together around the Bible. Like your Samaritan yourself has a biblical background. And tell me a little bit about how you became a person of faith in God.
My dad was a minister. My mom was an evangelist. She sang in the choir. Most of my family sang in the choir. And we had a whole biblical spiritual lifestyle. So again, like the man says, teach your children so they not depart from it. So though, as you get older, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. But God always finds a way to bring you back to Him, and it's a great experience. And I think that's one thing today that the world doesn't have is the head of the house, which every man who has children, who has a family, is the head of the house. You are the steward of that house. And if you are not being a great steward, your house will be in shambles. Family that prays together stays together. That's 100% true. I come from a family who had 11 children, and I'm number 12 who's adopted at the age of 10. And I have lived the spiritual life for a long time. God is 100% part of my life. And I teach that to my children, and we attend churches every Sunday, we pray every night. And we make it so that if something's going on in the how did we come to this point where we had to ask what is going on? Because if the men of the house were doing their job, the transgender movement would not be where it is today. And again, we as husbands and dads and males in general, if there's not a male role model in the house or in the family, this is what you get. This is where transgender comes in, and all these other things that a lot of people don't like to use it. And I'm going to say it, it's democracy. I hate to say it, it truly is. And to be honest with you, talk biblically, demons hate stuff like that. They don't even like looking at it. So if it appalls them, of course it's not. It's not what it's supposed to be. They're not supposed to be doing it. So, Angela, tell me more about your life as being a dad and what made you want to be a dad.
Well, that's a crazy question to ask because I didn't want to be a dad. I think growing up, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, and if I had to say it, I might have spoken and seen my dad in my biological dad from maybe I give myself 2 hands. So I can imagine seeing my dad probably about 5, 10 times in my life. So I didn't really have a strong male influence. And it's so ironic and powerful that you're sitting next to me because you're one of the men that have motivated me growing up, even though you're an older level than me. But even though you're a little, just a little, I always looked at you as a leader, not only as a leader, but as I saw how you raised your children and that you were a father and a husband, that motivated me. So as they say, you want to give the person their flowers while they're alive, I'm giving them to you today, brother. All right? And I appreciate you for that. But, growing up, I didn't really want to be a father. I didn't have a father to emulate. So there was nothing that I wanted to be. If I can go back into 10-year-old Antoine, I think I might have just wanted to be a ninja and Michael Jackson. So I don't think the father was on my mind. But growing up in the 80s, I just thought that fatherhood just wasn't something that I was focused on. And my actions showed, to be completely honest. I had a father of a 25-year-old and a 17-year-old, a boy and a girl. My daughter just graduated college not too long ago, and my son is currently in high school. And to see them now and be how proud of them as I am of them, I couldn't believe that I didn't want to be a father because they have enriched my life so much. To see yourself in these children, my daughter is like the goofy, stylish side of me, if I'm going to say. She's very sarcastic, very funny. And I see her doing her thing throughout life, and I'm just like, wow, God is amazing. And my son, he's the very mellow, chill side of me, and I look at them and I'm like, wow, like God did this, and He did this through me, and I'm just privileged. And you don't really know what type of children you're going to have. You just pray that you can be a part of their lives, especially if you're co-parenting. That can be also a struggle, and a lot of men, they struggle with that. And Father's Day comes around, and fathers, either a lot of mothers say that they're fathers, right? Because their men aren't around. And in my case, because my mother wasn't around, I just had to, kind of figure it out, as I went. And I knew that I didn't want my father, I didn't want my children to be without a father. So even though I didn't have any good role models, as growing up, with my children, I knew that I didn't want them to miss me like I missed my father. And I know me and, their moms may not have gotten along. I'll say, well, I know I gotta be there. I gotta, put my differences aside. And I know it's going to be painful because, a lot of us have, they call baby mama drama, as they say. And baby mama drama can cause, it's a shame because sometimes baby mama drama causes some men to cower and to, because they don't want conflict. But you have to get over it because your children, at the end of the day, they're going to feel that feeling of not being loved, that feeling of not being mentored. And I know how I felt when I didn't have a father. I felt like so many things were against me. I felt that the world was against me. I felt unsure about myself. I felt like maybe I'm too short, maybe I'm too dark, or I didn't have a father to come up behind me and say, no, son, you're good enough. And when you think about, your point with the transgender issue, a lot of children are coming to this conclusion because they don't like themselves, because they don't like their voice, or they feel they don't have that extra encouragement. And encouragement they're getting is encouragement from other kids like them who don't know anything, who, are just trying to make themselves feel good. And it's a cycle. So this movement has nothing to do but grow and fester because, partly because there aren't fathers in the home and not only in the home, but just able to pick up the phone. For those who co-parent, there's nothing like your child picking up the phone and calling you and say, hey, Dad, I'm having a problem. Or, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? So, in this day and age, people have to kind of get over themselves and the little minor, because they become minor once you get older. Once you get older, the baby mama drama becomes minute. And I really want to speak to that because parents, especially if they are married, when they break up, the children fall by the wayside and they become the casualties in our disagreements. So I just really hope that, somebody understands and relates to what I'm saying because that was a really hard issue of being a father. And again, like I said, I had some guys come along in my life that I tended to look towards, especially in the military, where we had, fathers who, like yourself, who had multiple children, who were out there fighting for their country. And, the military gives you such core values of duty, honor, respect, self-service, personal courage. There's all those things that you want in a father. And a lot of men, they don't have that, especially if the streets raising. I was lucky where I had, I had a lot of good, actually, I was going to do with the service to my mother, but a lot of good backing by my mother and my grandmother. So, in the military, this came in at a great time where, it kind of filled the void of not having a father, So, that's what I really appreciate about our friendship, me learning from you, learning from the military, and that's that thing of personal courage. I really use that and draw from that because in certain instances where the parents aren't getting along and then there's, some people really have bad, toxic situations where they're going to court, whether their people are getting locked up, restrained, or there's a lot of crazy baby mama drama stories out there. And I'm sure, if you're listening to this, you probably know of some. And I think that, fathers coming up now, don't plan on being fathers, can kind of look at what their children are missing out on, not being here. I think, as a dad, you could probably testify to crying on it, right? Like, I didn't know being a dad would allow me to cry so much. Like, I went to my daughter's graduation, and it had to be the most powerful thing. Every graduation, to be honest, every graduation, so from college, high school, middle school, all those graduations, all all those little milestones are, are great, are priceless. So, I just hope that, fathers out there, they understand that they're doing a huge service to their children. Even if you financially can't be there physically, be there in stature, because that's what's going on with a lot of the violence in the street as well. They don't have fathers in the home, and you find people, they don't know how to cope. Like during the pandemic, I had like this awesome situation with my son, where whenever I get pulled over, right, because I had like bad driving, but me and my son were in the car, and this has happened, several times. Like I said, I'm a bad driver, but every time I get pulled over by the cops, it's like I point out the interaction that I have with the cops, what I have with law enforcement, and as many times as I've gotten pulled over, it's never gone left because I treat the situation accordingly. Like, hey officer, how are you? Here's my driver's license, and I can sit there and wait, right? And he sees the interaction, right? And he says, well, Dad, you really don't get flustered. You're really cool. And I'm like, well, that's how you have to be, son. And he takes that and he learns from that. Now, picture the situation if I didn't have a father and I didn't, and I wanted to act erratic. And I say a lot of that I've gotten from the military, respecting authority, right? This is how you handle yourself. Polite about business. You don't have to yell and jump at the cops, right? What do you think about that, bro?
How about this? How about we take a break and I will give you my answer.
Oh, we taking a break.
So Blexit is a 501c3 nonprofit, non-political, nonpartisan organization whose mission is to advance minority communities, specifically targeting the African American community across the nation. Our initiatives, we have 5 pillars. Our first pillar is school choice. Our second pillar is free enterprise and entrepreneurship. Our third pillar is criminal justice reform. Our fourth pillar is to continue the promotion and also developing history programs that highlight our nation's founding principles, specifically freedom. And our fifth pillar is to showcase any of the first 4 in a format that's evocative, a visual arts format, and or live experience. That's what Blexit does. We have tons of initiatives that are happening in our country right now that are being done by our chapters.
So, to finish my answer, my dad was in the military also. Again, I didn't know he was in the military until after I came. And again, it made me go, yes sir, yes ma'am, and hold me accountable to, if I'm going to give orders, it's more or less, I'm not going to give you the order if I don't do it myself. So, and I think that's what a lot of my soldiers thought about me. Hey, Sergeant Jones is going to do, he's not going to do nothing that, he's not going to tell us what to do if he's not going to do it too. Which I didn't learn that from other soldiers in my unit. That's just something I learned it was instilled in me. Now, other sergeants, they would be like, you do that, and they'll walk away and go somewhere else. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of soldiers liked about me was I was there with them, and when things needed to get done, they were Sergeant Jones was going to be there to help them. Right. And I remember one time when, before Iraq, after 9/11, you guys were in Virginia, and you guys were setting up for something, and I just happened to come by.
I remember that.
And they were like, Sergeant Jones is here. Let him do it.
Right, yeah. They wanted to pull you from where you were with to come with us. And I'm like, what? Because everybody was like so relieved. They were so happy to see you.
Yeah, because, I took pride in my work. And that's the other thing about the military and being that you want to instill in your children is you take pride in what you're doing. Because if you don't take pride in what you're doing, when people see it, they're going to say you didn't care about it. And if you don't care about what you're doing, you don't care about people.
Right.
And I think that's another thing about Blexit that we love, that Antoine, and Antoine brought me on. And he told me about it after I saw that TV and everything. And he was like, dude, this is a great organization. You can come on and join. And I'm like, well, look, I'll join, but I'll be your understudy, or I'll help you out.
Right.
And then when I was the first meeting, and I'm like, yeah, I can be a part of this. And the rest is history. And we have to do more for our community. And I'm glad that Blexit has challenged us to do that. We're just open one into that. I think
we're at 41, 42 chapters. So Blexit is growing rapidly, and at a time like this, we need Blexit. Blexit is needed all across our country.
Yes, very much.
So let me ask you this. So I know we just had a really bad shooting this week in Philadelphia, and we've had a growing, alarming amount of shootings and violence that is going across our city of Philadelphia and across the country. Do you think the lack of fathers has anything to do with that?
I think it plays a big key, and I wouldn't just only say the lack of fathers, but the fathers that are in the home, they have to step up and understand that. I remember back in the day, if your kid did something, it was a reflection of you.
Yeah.
And that was one thing my parents always told me: don't get out there and do something in the street. That's on us.
Yeah.
So I guess today, a lot of homes are fatherless because of jail or maybe on the kind of things. And again, they look to the street for validation.
Yeah.
But also you got to remember too, the shooting in South Street. Kids are out at 11:30 at night. Why? You know what I mean? It's just, and it's school time. I mean, it's school, school time. Yeah, I understand that, the press is saying, oh, because of, COVID and everybody's out. But you can be out on the street and be respected.
Right.
Okay? And respect is learned at home. So if you're not learning respect, my mom always said this. If you are being respectful outside the home, there's no respect inside the house.
Right.
Because what you do at home will reflect outside. Right. And that's the big key again. And with my kids, I tell them that all the time. Hey, look, when we go out, when they go with the mom, she buys whatever they want. Right. When we leave the house, I have 3 rules. Go get what we're getting. Don't ask me for nothing. Don't touch them. Those are my 3 rules. And you break that rule, it's going to be a long time before we go to the store again. And guess what? Every time, one time, I've had that happen. You've been about the store. Sorry. And because they know, they're not going to get it. Everybody goes to the store again? No, we don't want to. Because they know they're not going to get it.
Right. But then we have to be on their pristine best behavior.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, too, because when you look at the video, and I look at the video a lot of times.
Yeah.
And the sense of disrespect. First of all, why are you in the middle of the street?
Yeah.
That's where cars go.
Yeah.
Why are you congregating in the street? That's what sidewalks are. Second of all, if you see something that doesn't look right, don't stand there and look at it.
Right.
Kindly take your beat time, walk away. If you have questions, we don't want to do this business. Let's go on about our business. Yeah. And again, I feel bad and I pray for the family and comfort that lost loved one that night, and because it shouldn't happen. They were out having a good time for their birthday, and now they won't be here anymore. All because people wanted to do something, use guns.
Right. But I think that comes from, like you said, strong fathers being in the home, church teachers. Yeah, and church, right? And because I remember me being, on my way to being a ninja and a superhero, I had my jacket tied around my neck, and I was jumping down the hall in elementary, and I just jumped out. I was like hands in the air, and I'm flying, and I'm in line. I'm supposed to be walking in line, and I'm like flying, yeah. And my mom just showed up out of nowhere. My mom just showed up. I don't know where my mom came from, but my mom came and like ripped me up on my neck and took my cape off, and my superpowers were gone. And those are the type of parents that we had back then. And my father is the head of the household, and I feel like that's what we're lacking. We're lacking the presence of a father. Because I told my son, if he does something like that, I will eat him. I literally will eat you if you do something like that in the street.
I hear that.
Yeah, that fear. It's like a healthy fear, though, right? It's that unknown fear. Right. Yeah, you literally thought your dad would do, right? And that's a healthy fear. And I think we become so soft on kids and parenting and just being around, just being present. And I think that's a thing that we all need to learn from, and especially with your story, we can kind of build on that, and so other generations. So I had my nephew's son here, and he's our man behind the scenes, and I want him to be able to learn from that, learn from us, and my son and your kids, and that's all that our world is really. It starts with that. Yes, it really starts with that. I think we are expecting a magic pill. Like we want the government to do something government. It's the president's fault. It's the governor's fault. No, it starts at home. Yes. And Blexit always talks about free thinking. Yes. Free thinking and not depending on the government. And you can't depend on the government to raise your kids, because you take your kids to Caesar, what do you think you're going to get?
That's the key. That's the part where if you let the government raise your children, they're going to be where you see them now.
Yes.
And if the government doesn't have, at least the part of the government doesn't have values. No. They're not made to have values. They're just here. They're elected to push laws. So if the president says that the teacher is the one who is in charge of the children, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Then if you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, I'm feeding them, I'm clothing them, I'm making sure that they, have to eat and water and get bath. But teachers in charge? No, I don't think so. So that's where that other part comes in.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to throw you out there in the street, but your family homeschools.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's wonderful. That's a commendable thing. And your wife should be very, she's a wonderful woman. Because that's a hard job.
Yes.
How was that?
And I said, believe me, she's got more gray hair now than she ever had. But I'm going to tell you this about homeschool. And I think we have, Kirk Cameron.
Yeah, he has
his movie on Monday. My 9-year-old, he can read. No, I'm sorry. My 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, he just took 11. I'm sorry.
This kid,
11 years old. He can read at an 8th grade level in his own way.
Yeah. Your kids are brilliant.
So, and Noah, he'll be 9. This boy can have a conversation with you at anything like your own time.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing because I think homeschooling, you have to do your research first, because not everybody can homeschool. You understand that not all parents can homeschool. it's a struggle. Believe me, it's a struggle not having two-income household. Okay, it's all on me. But to sacrifice two-family income household, to hear my kids speak the way they do and learn the way they have learned, and you're like, okay, it's worth it.
Yeah. It's a great trade-off.
Right. But if your parents who are in the school system, you have to speak up. You pay for that right. You pay your taxes, and you have a right for your child to understand, to learn, and not to be indoctrinated with what the left is trying to push. Be very vocal. Be very vocal. And when you can, homeschool. She loved it. Yeah, and sometimes it gets nerve-wracking. And again, my teachers are 100%, and they love it. Trying to be home and work from home.
They did it. Your kids are awesome, and hats off to your wife for being a part of that. Because it definitely takes a village in your own family. When people say it takes a village, it takes good families. And good families build good communities. You know.
And I think that's the other thing too when it comes to kids out in the street. I remember back in the day when you could say Mr. Hauser, if he saw something that you were doing, he would go and tell his parents. Right? And you didn't want him to find out. You didn't want your parents to find out. Because they would have said, well, why did you beat him? Right? You can't do that anymore. You know? But I think that's the other part too. Is as a community, and that's why I think Blexit Squad started, because as a community, we can make things happen and take things where if there is no problem in the home, Blexit as a community can take you to that next level and get you where you need to be.
Right. Those are the aspirations of Blexit, because they're growing education curriculum, after-school program. There's a Blexit chapter in Florida doing amazing things. And yes, it started off like the parents don't have to pay, and they just drop their kids off there. And the kids aren't just getting dropped off and just sitting in front of the TV. They're actually learning a curriculum on American studies, on different trades and different things like that of that nature, where they're actually growing their mind. They're not just sitting in front of a tablet. So a lot of active care, no shots of active care, but some of the active care, they don't really have heartfelt intentions. They're just there to do a job, fill a void, not necessarily to grow your children's mind. And Blexit is doing that, and they're actually going to implement that across the country in other chapters. So it's amazing. It's really good to be a part of an organization that is invested into the children. So Ralph, I just thought about this. Like, we're talking about Father's Day. Who was a father on TV that you liked? Like, who was that father that you would either emulate or just admire? Not even new fathers on TV. These new fathers can't get together.
You know something? It's a shame that cringe when you ask that question. We already know who the father is. We want to out from people. That was his daughter.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But you got to also remember he was a character.
Right.
So the character is who we wanted our dads to be.
Yeah.
Or who we wanted to be. If we want to be that, that's the one who, because he showed us how to be a dad, how to listen to your kids, and when they come up with the craziest ideas, you're like, what? What are you making?
Theo.
You know what I mean? Me and Theo kind of were like on the same page. And I wanted to be a mom too. And after watching that episode, And to be honest with you, when I became an adult and I got my first apartment, I thought back to that episode. So I'm not going to eat if I want to have this.
Right.
You know, but he was, yes, I'm not going to say it, you know, but again, he was a character.
Right.
So the character, Mr. Huxtable was my biggest background. How about you?
Mr. Huxtable. So I was going to pick Cosby, but you got me with Cosby. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to still keep it on the Black family. So I'm going to go with Carl from the Family Matters. Carl was,
yes.
Carl was good. Carl was a good father. You know, he juggled his family, and he even had room to mentor the neighbor's kid, and Steve Urkel.
Yes.
Right? So Steve would come in and in a legitimate family, Steve couldn't come in 2022 family. No. They would close the door and Steve would not be allowed to come in. He would lock the door. Right? He would have no key because Steve would just walk in. Yeah. Right? And Steve never had any keys. Steve would just walk in. What do you want to see? Right. So I like Carl. Carl was, a fun-loving dad. He had that good medium between being stern and still, being able to have fun. And, I like that character a lot. But anything new on TV, I can't. I don't know what they're doing. That's a whole other show. But
well, remember when James Earl Jones was a dad? I think it was part of the police. I think it was a police family. Something like Blue Bloods Them.
Yeah.
But James Earl Jones was a father, and he had a family. And they tried the same thing, but of course, no one wanted to watch it because they're already done.
Right.
With Family Matters and the Huxtables, the comedy show. Those two shows kind of broke the mold when it came to having a black family. Because you had the doctor, and you had a white collar who was a police officer who dealt more with racial issues and Chicago. Yes. So his house is Winslow has an issue with race, racial issues, and sometimes you felt it. You felt that was you were going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Not today with Blackish. I don't excuse me, but those aren't true Black American shows. They show you the trueness of how it is to be a husband, how to have a Black family, and what Black families are supposed to be about. We should be telling our children that we should be respectful to the police, even though they're not respectful to you. That's why we go to the police station. That's right. I think that's the part that a lot of shows today. When you think about social justice warriors, and we're not here to be social justice warriors. We're here to be a great model for society and have our children watch us and emulate what we do. If they emulate what we do, then we don't have to worry about Black lives. We don't have to worry about all this racial tension because they know what to do. Right. And again, you take that nucleus out of the family. That's what you get.
Good point. And no shots to people who like language. I've never seen an episode of that or any of those like spin-offs.
Yeah.
I've never seen. It's like if it's not the Huxtables, if it's not Family Matters, I'm stuck on one of those sitcoms. I think those are the golden age of sitcoms.
Those are like that. So I'm glad that you got these other channels that will play them.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, But that's the key to
other note, we just went from a couple of really good points, but as Father's Day is here, what's the best Father's Day gift that you've ever received?
I'm a gadget guy, so one year my kids got me a cup. We bought another one, and it's a Star Wars, and you pour the coffee in the cup, you hit the button, and it stirs the coffee for you. It's a force, it's good, and this
Nice. Yeah. I'm a big sci-fi guy myself. I like that type of stuff. I'm gonna go with I had some running shorts, and I go with running shorts like that, and I lose them. And last summer, my daughter got me some running shorts. Now you don't really expect much, from no Lululemon. That's the big bucks. That's the big bucks. So she didn't give me those, but my kids are at the age where I appreciate everything. Any small, either small or big, and they're just my daughter is just getting into the women's course, and my son is still in high school. So I appreciate whatever gift. It's always for me. It's the gift that counts, right?
Yes.
And it's a thought. It's a thought, and I just think that it's like everything that I'm getting with my kids, whatever feelings or accomplishments, to me it's like the first time.
Yes.
And I draw from that, and I appreciate that so much. But what else? What else you got there, Ron?
Well, we want to plug our Blexit family event that's going on in Cape May next month.
Oh, the Blexit Fest.
Blexit Fest, there we go.
Yes.
So that's at the end of the month.
That is July 29th or 24th or 30th. Don't quote me on that. But definitely go to the website, blexit.org for more details, and subscribe to all the Blexit social media channels, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
We'll work.
Yeah, they work on Twitter.
Well, we'll have links.
Yeah. Yeah, but I implore you to get involved. If you want to get involved in your community and just don't know how, Blexit is a wonderful outlet to find a Blexit chapter in your state. If you're in Pennsylvania, definitely look us up, BlexitPA. We are more helpful, and we're looking to for you guys to get involved.
Thank you for watching. It's been good. Our first one.
Our first podcast. So we have to give ourselves